the benefits of peer support, why talking to somebody else with lived experience of mental illness is invaluable. A few months ago I went for a coffee with a friend. If you were also in that cafe when we were, you might have thought, from our rip-roaring laughter, that we were reciting lines from a Billy Connolly routine or recalling cringe-worthy antics from our teenage memory archives. But we weren't. What we were actually talking about was some of our more extreme symptoms of anxiety. Yes, I know, I was only recently saying that we shouldn't make light of mental illness. But when you have the chance to talk to someone who understands, blurt out your most embarrassing behaviors or routines only to find out that they did something similar last week, it generates so much relief that laughter does, indeed, feel entirely appropriate. It's not always the way to deal with problems. I mean, as funny as things can seem on reflection, we would rather they didn't have to happen. That's where professional counseling, medication and self-care might come in. But once these things have happened, it's nice to realize that you're not on your own, and it's nice to be able to giggle at them. You might call this chatting to a friend who really gets you, or you might call it peer support. Peer support can be informal, like having a chat with a mate over a cuppa. Or it might be more formal, for example, coming together in a prearranged group to share experiences. However you do it, I believe in its power to support people with mental health problems, and I'm certainly not the only one. Eddie Dean enjoyed a successful career in the armed forces. Until, that is, anxiety, clinical depression and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, interrupted his life. When he was really unwell, he found himself waiting months for a professional counseling appointment, and, as such, decided he needed to do something about it. Spurred on by his own need for support, and his acknowledgement of the pressures on mental health services, Eddie decided to use his war pension to set up a charity, Anxious Minds Northeast. Eddie says, I felt that we needed something to bridge the gap for the individuals waiting months on waiting lists for professional therapy and support. It's a big step going to seek support, and when you find out that you have to wait months for your referral appointment, it can feel like a bit of a setback. That's why I launched the charity, so that people who are proactively wanting to engage with mental health support, and take their first steps in their recovery, had somewhere to go. Anxious Minds provides a range of services, but at the core of what they do is their peer support network. The sessions run at various locations across the Northeast, and an online community also provides support for people. Since it was launched, the charity has helped hundreds of people. I spoke to one such service user, Claire, who felt her recovery was significantly accelerated through the support she found. When her illness was at its worst, she found herself barely awake for 2 hours each day and could only manage a couple of sentences before bursting into tears. Claire says, I found Anxious Minds when I was feeling really desperate. I had been experiencing a wide range of physical symptoms as well as problems with my roller coaster emotions, perfectionism and my relentless ability to put myself under huge amounts of pressure at work. Because of the severity of my physical symptoms and severe pain, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I ended up spending 5 months in bed pumped full of prescription pills. Since accessing peer support, Claire has come off all of her medication and is looking forward to returning to work. She is also hoping to train as a peer support worker. Claire adds, the beauty of peer support is meeting people who have been there and who have got themselves through the bad times. It gives you hope and inspiration. So there's having a cuppa with a mate, and there's attending a peer support session, but what about online forums? At National Housing Provider and Charity Home Group, a new online colleague forum was brought in, Workplace by Facebook. It allows colleagues to collaborate, plan and share by creating their own groups, be it for social interaction, project teams or anything else. There's plenty of cat and dog lover groups on there too. It works much like Facebook, and you can therefore adjust your privacy settings to suit the conversation. At Home Group, one colleague set up a mental health peer support group on Workplace that has become a safe space for colleagues to shout out to others who understand how they feel. People might say they're having a bad day and find immediate support and kind words, or share thoughts on how best to manage.